And on let's say a more serious note, last night a few dozen relatives gathered for the funeral for Nashat Milhem, the perpetrator of January 1st shooting in Tel Aviv. Milhem's body was returned to his family, which buried him immediately after being killed in a shootout with police last night. I-24 News defense correspondent Jaffa Port has the story.
A quiet burial in the middle of the night in the northern village of Arara. The funeral for Nashat Milhem was a quick and unceremonious affair. The body of the man who killed 3 people in Tel Aviv on January 1st was handed over to his family by Israeli authorities only a short time earlier. This was done on the condition the funeral be attended by few people. Indeed, no more than 40 are thought to have been present. No significant incidents were noted, despite police concerns the event could turn into a venue for protests and incitement to violence. Milhem had been hiding in an empty apartment in Arara, but had visited a nearby store 3 days before his death, where he was recognized by the owner and a clerk. The two discussed what to do with several acquaintances before some of them eventually notified police days later. Though these tip-offs were critical in locating Milhem, the delay in turning to authorities has led to arrests. 7 Arara residents are currently in custody, some of whom failed to notify police altogether, despite knowing of Milhem's presence nearby.
The suspect cooperated with his interrogators. It must be said he reported to the police station himself, indeed after a certain hesitation. But bottom line, he arrived there and informed the police of Nashat Milhem's location.
A lawyer for 3 of the detainees told I-24 News that he has thus far been denied access to his clients, but that a court decision on their continued presence in custody is expected Thursday.
Yes, and joining us here right now in the studio is I-24 News defense correspondent Shai Ben-Ari.
Good evening, Lucy.
Good evening. Still with me, Ali Waked. Shai, the latest updates from you.
Right. Well, there are still 7 people, of course, in custody, but it has to be said there's, at the moment, very little basis for the theory that Milhem was part of some larger organization, some sort of Islamic State cell. There was a lot of talk of that in the days past. It seems that the worst possible scenario that we're talking about is that some of these people who were in custody perhaps aided him while he was in hiding, bringing him food and so forth. But it has to be said that Milhem himself went to the grocery and was recognized there, so he couldn't have had that much help, of course. We do know most of all these men, or most not all of these men, did notify police at some point that Milhem was in the area, but basically no indication so far that anybody had any indication what he was going to do beforehand, before he actually carried out those attacks in Tel Aviv.
Right now the investigation is focusing exactly on what? It's focusing on the people who helped him, or focusing on the family, focusing on the father, or what were the exact motives of Nashat to do what he did?
The father has been released, and I think the focus is now less on the family, rather those people who came into contact with Nashat Milhem from the point that he arrived back in Arara, to see, perhaps just to tie up any loose ends, to see if perhaps there was any indication that we're talking about some sort of organization. But I think that the picture that we're getting now is that I think that can be ruled out, the idea that there was some sort of terror organization here. Apparently Nashat Milhem was acting on his own, and there are perhaps some criminal questions that need to be examined closely to see if there was any attempt to really hide him and conceal him from authorities, or perhaps if they were they knew about his location in this apartment, were perhaps feeding him, but at the same time notifying police.
What are the chances, Ali, that we're talking about, let's say, a terror cell, specific cell, not connected to anyone? And what are the chances that it is connected to IS? Because from what we're seeing and from what the history made us, let's say, learn and study, is that IS, when it does something, immediately takes responsibility. This time, we're not seeing anyone taking responsibility about anything.
Yeah, and we did not see IS taking responsibility, for example, for Istanbul, when the Turks are quite sure that it is an IS operation. Lucy, as far as Arabs, Palestinians, factions are concerned, there is still lots of mystery around this story of Nashat Milhem. There are some Palestinians who are involved in the Salafist operation in Iraq and elsewhere, who say that they don't have any idea whether it is even a partisan, a supporter of the Islamic State, like the kind of the Pakistani couple in San Bernardino who carried out the attack because they were identified with IS without being an organic part of the Islamic State. But Lucy, I think that at the end of the day, it was an individual, a lone wolf, but I'm not sure yet what was the background and what was the motivation of Milham to carry out this attack.